Hillary's assistant and girlfriend's mother's the most famous Islamic woman writing books about mutilating women and how it must be done, literally cutting their genitals off. Here's the deal. Europeans can be tribalist and racist. Africans can be tribalist and racist. Asians can be tribalist and racist. And in ancient times, that was normal because generally a tribe from over the hill or whatever, if you had better fishing grounds, better hunting grounds, they'd come drive you out of there. Now, in the modern Christian culture that hasn't been perfect, but that's what changed the world, created the new system we have, it was about your heart and soul and what you stood for and being affiliated with God and free societies. Kind of the Renaissance meets Christianity. And the Old Testament Judaism, not the Babylonian Talmud Judaism that's something completely different, basically Satanism. When you sit here and you look at all this, Judeo-Christian values, people always get mad, go, we're not Judeo, or we're not. Yeah, it's Judeo-Christian values with common law, European common law, which was pretty commonsensical as well. So that's the merger of those three laws. That's taught in law school, okay, that's a fact. And in come the Muslims that have their Sharia law that they say is the only law. We just had these doctors arrested here mutilating little girls, reportedly, in the United States. Well, they're promoting Hillary's assistant and girlfriend's mother's the most famous Islamic woman writing books about mutilating women and how it must be done, literally cutting their genitals off. And a lot of ignorant people say, how do you cut a woman's genitals off? Real easy. Woman has genitals. Dumbasses, excuse me. Really makes me mad. And I'm not patronizing the women. It makes me mad. You know, as a man, seeing women gets me angry. Women and children, you know, women and children get to the lifeboats first. That's what society's about. But they remove women from being with a culture that actually wants to empower them and protect them, and then bring in another culture that totally enslaves them, and then make jokes about slave ships and slave blocks and slave auctions in Libya, and say, I'm crazy, it doesn't exist, even though it's mainstream news. So this is the main threat, and the left is allied with them. So Tommy got cut off from the break. We're gonna go back to him in a moment. I'm gonna punch out of here and let him and Paul take over. They're allied with it, but I want to get his take on, sure, the dam's broken, we're beginning to win, but they're coming in with censorship in Europe, the UK, the US, saying shut us down, trying to pass laws where you can't criticize Islam. That's already the place in Germany, covering up their crime statistics. This is here, this is happening. So how does he see that playing out? Because look, it's Trump's 100 days coming up. He's going after radical Islam. He's building a wall. He's not letting in people from 7 countries that don't even have real passports, that don't even have working airports, most of them. Somalia, Libya, these places. You know, people with slave auctions, with collapsed airports bombed out, with crazy jihadis running it, where planes barely land and take off, with fake caliphate stamped, you know, where the Grand Imam of ISIS gives passports to Habib to get on planes and come over and blow stuff up. And they're acting like Trump's bad, trying to block that. So he's done a great job on the economy, a great job on getting the stock market up, a great job on so many fronts. Is he perfect? No, but he's an American president, not a globalist. But the globalists are allied with Islam. And I want to get Paul's and, of course, also Mr. Robertson's take, Tommy's take on this after I leave. Briefly, we fund our operation selling super high-quality products. Anybody can see that InfoWars is now under as much attack in the United States. It's ridiculous. The lies, the twisting. I guess they thought because, you know, right now with what's going on in courts, I can't speak out. Well, that affect me on separate lies they told. They're separate from court. But it is just all-out assault. I'm not that important. They know, though, if they can set a precedent to shut me down, as they're calling for, then they can shut anybody down. Because we really do reach 45 million people conservatively a week. And we're going out and getting people like Paul, millions a week. Tens of millions a week, Paul reaches. Conservatively, 15 million, sometimes 30, 40 million. Tommy reaches tens of millions. We're all coming together. There's a quickening of every race, color, and creed that want justice and freedom. And the globalists are scared. And they're scared of their whole system being exposed. And they're scared of how bona fide and how unscripted and how real we are. So that's why they say we're fake or we're racist or don't like Obamacare, you're a racist. It's crap. It doesn't work.
New York Times refuses to use term female genital mutilation because it's culturally loaded. Worried that the term female genital mutilation might sharpen the divide between those who oppose brutally cutting away a little girl's genitalia to deprive her of sexual pleasure and those who practice the, quote, right. One New York Times editor, and in fact this is prevalent throughout the entire New York Times, instead refers to the ritual as genital cutting. Tommy, it's just cutting. It's just like going to the hairdressers, right? They're even afraid to use the very term now when they talk about it.
I looked into this. I had a real in-depth look into the laws, into the side effects, into the mental health issues on the children, on the women as they grow older. It's barbaric. It's backward. It's disgusting. 55,000 girls, British girls. Now, you're not one person prosecuted. Now, the law is that the person who if their parents allow it to happen, they get 7 years in prison. The person cutting the girl, 14 years in prison. Now, why has no one been prosecuted in the UK? These laws have been around for 30 years. Why has not one person been prosecuted? Well, if we prosecuted parents on 55,000 children, our prison system only holds 80,000 criminals. We don't have the accommodation or the facility right now in Britain to even tackle this child abuse. We can't. That's why I try and work out, why are they not arresting them? Is it because they're scared of them? Is it because their cultural diversity is so powerful? What's the reason? And I just think that they can't. And it's similar to the grooming. That it would be such a mass effort. And it's disgusting. I think I've seen the doctors arrested in America, but what's actually happened in the UK will be viewed as a dark stain on British history, that we allowed young children to be mutilated in the name of Islam. And this comes down to, I even looked into what the Prophet Muhammad said about it. The Prophet Muhammad sanctioned that. So when people say it's got nothing to do with Islam, I found hadith after hadith after hadith with comment after comment after comment from Muhammad blessing it, wanting it, and instructing for it. So I hope that America protects its children, whether they be Muslim, Christian, whoever they are, protects them. And Birmingham Police Force in the UK, they actually put a tweet out off their police force's Twitter account saying that it would not benefit the children to prosecute the parents. It might benefit the next children if you put the parents in jail for 7 years and you take the girls into care and give them a life free of slavery, then it might actually stop some of these parents doing it. But you're actually encouraging it and allowing it in our country for tens of thousands of young girls to be mutilated. It sickens me. When I actually, because I looked into it, anyone out there who's not looked into this, it is, and I've heard people try and compare it to Jewish circumcision. It's nothing like it. It doesn't compare.
We just lost Tommy there for a moment. We'll try and get him back. The point about
these girls are mutilated.
Go ahead.
For the rest of their.
Yeah, we're having trouble with Tommy there. We'll try and get him back on a good connection. We have to remember, of course, that here in the United States, Linda Sarsour, who is the big feminist icon right now, she's an FGM advocate. She literally made jokes about Ayaan Hirsi Ali being mutilated. She's an FGM victim. Ayaan Hirsi Ali escaped an Islamic country, integrated into the West, became a vocal, prominent ex-Muslim reformist. She is a victim of female genital mutilation. And there you have it. Daily Wire, Muslim Women's March organizer, Linda Sarsour, attacks genital mutilation survivor. I would take her vagina away. She actually tweeted she would take the vagina away of an FGM victim. And she's the big feminist icon right now in the United States. She's the one leading the Women's March. Again, look into her background. Pro-Sharia, links with Hamas. Wears the hijab, promotes the hijab. We've talked about it over and over again. The far left is aligning with Islamism at every single turn, and it's absolutely disgusting. And it's no wonder that ISIS is coming out with manifestos saying, let's just go ahead and form that alliance. Let's give them weapons. Let's make them militant, because, again, they broadly share the same goals. Absolutely incredible situation. We're trying to get Tommy back on the line. His connection there's not very good. Let's hit some more news stories in the meantime. This is out of RT. 31% of Americans view Russia as greatest danger to US, highest rate in 3 decades. So the propaganda, to some extent, is working. Answering an open-ended question, 31% of Americans said Russia currently represents the greatest danger to the US. According to a new poll, it is the highest percentage of Americans expressing this sentiment in nearly 3 decades. They broke it down into Democrats and Republicans. Democrats, 39% of Democrats see Russia as the greatest threat to America, while 21% cited North Korea and 13% said it was China. Republicans and Republican-leaning independents said 27% North Korea the biggest threat, 21% Russia, and 18% Iran. So again, there's a huge split between Republicans and Democrats because most of them have bought into that propaganda about the Trump administration being in bed with the Russians, though, of course, that has died down in recent weeks after Trump bombed Syria. Talking about FGM just there, here's an article out of Westminster. UKIP tackle grooming gangs, FGM and Islamist schools. Further to the announcement of banning the burqa, which is what UKIP have called for with the general election coming up here in about 50 days' time. UKIP now plan to take on grooming gangs with harsher sentences and shut schools teaching Islamist ideology in Britain, as Tommy was talking about. We've had this huge problem of Islamist teachings being prevalent amongst these schools in these Islamist ghetto areas in places like Birmingham. So UKIP has announced they're going to not only try and ban the burqa, they're going to take on these grooming gangs. They're going to try and shut down the epidemic of female genital mutilation. They want to introduce school-based medical checks for girls at high risk and prosecute the parents of those who have undergone the barbaric procedure. Tommy, you're back. UKIP's come out and said that they want to ban the burqa. They want to take on FGM. Is this going to be a successful platform in attracting votes, given polls show that increasing numbers of people are against the Islamization of our society?
Given that Paul Nuttall preached at a mosque before the Stoke election, gave out leaflets promising that they wouldn't ban halal, had Muslims who were pro-Sharia standing for the party. No, I doubt it. I think it's too little too late. Given that people like myself can't join UKIP, do I see them being strong on the Islamic point? The points they've made are all just general and logical. Who wouldn't want to stop female genital mutilation? It's not like, it wasn't really shocking to me that they want the burqa ban. I think that their campaign slogan should have been Stop Islam. Stop sitting on the fence. Stop trying to be in an establishment movement. Get real with the real people who are sick to death, fed up, scared, terrified of what Islam's doing. Don't sit on the fence. Just tell the truth. Be honest. Be honest. We need to stop the influence Islam has.
What the aging process is when the cell replicates, we lose a little bit of our telomeres. Telomeres are the little cups on the end of our chromosomes.
And when it runs out, you start dying.
Secure your DNA force today at InfoWarsLife.com.